So welcome back. This will be our lesson 2. So I've already created the steps on the rear, and currently what's missing is the columns here. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be invoking the command rectangle, and I'm making sure that I am in my wall layer. So in plan, I'm just going to click and create rectangles here. There you go. So for me to have a smoother operation, I'm going to go back to my 2D wireframe in my 3D view. So extrude ext that, and then go up. Okay, you can reference the top of your wall as the distance of the height. There you go. Control S. Okay, before we do this, of course, we need to save this as another file, which is lesson 2. Click A, save as, drawing, and lesson 2. Change your name. And save. All right. That will save it as another file. Lesson 2 is going to be all about creating the door and the window assemblies for this in 3D. So if we take a measure of this, I believe this is 2 meters in opening. That includes the frame. And this is about 1.25 meters. Okay, so you can always look at your command prompt to see that information. All right, so 1.25. So here, I'm going to be in my layer 0 for the meantime. So if I create that opening for the window, would be rectangle at 2, 1.25. I'm going to offset this by 0.05 or 2 inches to illustrate the window frame. So right now it's currently, the opening would be 1.9. So that gives me a 0.95 per panel if I just want to do 2. It's almost 1 meter. That's a large window, but for the sake of this exercise, I'm just going to do 2 panels. Just going to go and rectangle. So currently my midpoint snap is not on, so I'm just going to press escape once, and I'm going to go over to my snap settings, which is OS. I'm going to turn on my midpoint, and probably, yes, node, will use that later on, trust me. So I'm going to illustrate the window panel, which is that, it's over there. And then of course the window panel will have a frame, and within that is going to be where the glass is, and holding the glass would be the inner wall frame, the inner window frames, which will be the mullions. I'm going to offset this by 3 inches or 0.0075. Offset. Oops. Offset. Value is going to be 0.075. Enter once. Click that. Go inside. Click in there. And enter to get out of the command. So now for the frames, inner frames here, I'm going to do a vertical one and 2 horizontal ones here. So the frames are going to be 1 inch by 1 inch or 0.025 by 0.025 in section. So here, currently, if I measure this, DI, this is 1 meter. So what I'm going to do here is REC. So the value, okay, I'm going to make a rectangle. And the value for the X would be 0.025 followed by a comma, and 1. So that's a 0.025 by 1 meter. I'm going to move it over by picking first the midpoint, click the object, and then midpoint to here. Control S to save. Now I want two more of these, so these are going to be segmented into 1, 2, 3 glass panes if I have two horizontal frames. So here I need a reference line to do that and subdivide it into 3 equal parts. So what I'm going to do here is shift right click. I don't want it to be in my endpoint because I won't see that line, okay, or the midpoint. So rather here on this edge of this window panel is what I'm going to do is to hold my shift key and right click mouse button. We have the instant snap menu. So what I'm looking for is this nearest. Okay, when you say nearest, anything of the edge here, any edge actually would be magnetized and be locking into that. So I'm just gonna click here and perpendicular to that, and then press enter to get out of the line command. Now I need to divide this by divide command. Div is the shortcut. Enter once, click the object first, enter, and then punch in the numbers of segments that you want, which is in this case 3. Enter. Now you don't see the points because it's currently on the same layer. So I need to erase this line. E, enter, click the line, and you can see those dots. Okay, they're not so obvious. If I window click them, you can see them in blue nodes. Okay, so these are the nodes that you want to click on. I'm gonna copy the frame that I already done over here and rotate it. RO, enter, click the object, enter. Now it's asking for the rotation point. I'm gonna rotate it there. I'm gonna move this M. So I'm gonna click the midpoint of this, click as my pick and point, and then node here. No, so this is going to appear since we turned it on the snap settings. There you go. And then another move M would be from that midpoint perpendicular. Now for this edge here, all I have to do is just click onto this, just drag the endpoints to those to snap onto those. Now I'm just going to copy, since I've already done this, over to here, and there you go. I have the necessary elements now to do a 3D model of the window set. What I usually do is I just copy some elements first over to the side, like so. Extrude this. For example, this is going to be the window frame. Don't worry that this is oriented and on the ground at the moment. Later on, we're going to 3D rotate this to match to put in place into the openings here. I'm going to extrude this by 0.2. EXT is the shortcut for extrude. Now I'm going to need to subtract this, just like in lesson 1. We have this currently with these are two solid objects on each other. Okay, you need to subtract the inside. And again, if we take a look at this in conceptual view, conceptual visualization, this is what it. So we need to hollow this out. SU, enter, choose the object to subtract from, which is the bigger object. Enter once. Now you need to subtract the inner, which is the smaller one. So I'm just going to highlight also. It's kind of difficult to choose it here. So but in conceptual, that's why I always like to be in the 2D wireframe. Okay, I'm going to choose that, and that's the object that I just need to subtract. Enter once, and there you go, it's hollowed out. Don't forget to save. Now for the window panel, so I'm going to copy the frames first, the outer frames, to create, to generate from. So this is going to be about a thickness of 0.05 or 2 inches, or like the door, like door panels. ext is the command. I go up by 0.05, just like the window frames that we did. We need to subtract. SU, click the outer, the bigger one first, press enter once, click the inner, no, oops, inner, no, okay, again. So it's kind of difficult to really pick your objects and this conceptual, in the conceptual view. So rather, I rather go back to my 2D wireframe. So subtract again, enter once for the object to subtract from, click the object that you want to subtract, and you go there. Again, you can always check by hiding first, and that's it. Regen, RE, to get out, and always save. So now for the inner frames for the glass, which are the millions, I'm gonna copy SCO, and then we go and place it over there for the meantime. So I'm gonna be extruding this by 1 inch also, so it will have a square in section. EXT, you can choose all three at the same time. Go up to that direction and punch in the numbers 0.025, enter. So you would have something like this. Okay, if I show the conceptual view of this, this is what it looks like. Now we want this into as a one entity. So in order to do that, we invoke the command called union. U and I is the shortcut for that. And I'm going to choose these three objects, and I'm going to enter once, and there you go. Control S to save. Okay, so that's what we have. Now for the glass, okay, is concerned, I'm going to copy these two objects, which is the frame and that thing, in order for me to generate the glass properly. So I'm going to be using these frames as a subtracting object. So I'm going to first extrude the thickness of the glass here. EXT. Okay, upper direction. Okay, so it's the thickness of glass is relatively very thin, which is a quarter of an inch, or 0.06, 0.006. So there are two zeros after a decimal point. So I'm gonna punch in that number, 0.006, and there you go. So it's that thin. Okay, so I need to subtract this to have a clean, very much solid, clean, when these things are gonna be generated in 3D. So which are going to be, I want them clean and not overlapping to one another. So in order to do that, I want to subtract this. I want to use this to as a subtracting object. So SU, subtract first the object that you're subtracting from, enter once, and you enter the, click onto the subtracting object and enter. So there you go. So these are going to be their pieces of glass that you're going to be placing onto these, assembling them over. So don't forget to save again all the time. So in order for me to assemble these, I'm going to go back to my 2D wireframe view. I'm going to surgically assemble them together. All right. So I'm going to move this M. I'm going to pick the midpoint of this so that it's going to be a good reference to place it on the mid part of this frame. Boom. Oops, the other one. 8. What I meant is I wanted to put it here. There you go. So it's perfect. Okay, so if I hit hide HI, that's what it looks like so far. So now we have the glass and the inner frames done. I need to place this over here. So I'm gonna move these two. Now I need to pick, okay, so not including the 2D. So I'm just gonna, I need to erase this 2D reference rectangle. I'm just gonna erase this. Okay, there you go. So that's clean. So when I move this M, gonna pick the midpoint here of the glass again and over to the panel frame of the window. So I'm gonna move it into midpoint. Make sure you do that. Okay, here we go. And if we hide this HI, there you go, perfectly. Now we try to avoid overlapping solid objects on each other, because if that happens, the edge here will not be created. You will have no line edge here. That's why it's important for you to subtract or to be at the right surface points or endpoints or and perpendicular to each other. So right now I have one panel assembly and a window frame. So I'm gonna be placing this, say, in the middle. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this. I need to place it there. So moving M, pick the midpoint, zoom out and zoom in to where you're supposed to be. There you go. So right now, this is the 3D in orthographic. Now I need to make a copy of this somehow here, but let's invoke the command mirror mi, so it's easier for me than just copying. Mi, enter once, choose the object. So anything within the rectangle is going to be chosen if you choose it from left to right. I'm going to pick this midpoint as my pivoting point. Okay, I'm going to go up. Okay, if you're having a difficult time, always press F8 for ortho on. Click once. Do you want to erase? No. And there you go. Control S, save, and here we have the assembly. Now, how do you have this stand up? Now, if I'm going to invoke that command 3D rotate, okay, so that's a forward, so you can click this. Okay, so I'm going to click these objects to rotate, enter. You would have this gizmo. So I want to pick the yellow since I want to for it to stand up. So it's my ortho lock is on, or F8 is on, so therefore it can stand up like that. So before we place this in, I want to create this into a block, because right now it has several elements. Easy to mess it up or move some of the parts away if you're not so careful. So in order for a better way of organizing this is to make this into a block. B, enter. So I'm going to name this as, let's make it 3D window 1, because maybe, yes, Maybe in certain projects you would have several windows. I'm just going to call this window 1 for the meantime, because in fact we need another window for the bathroom, which is different. When select the objects, enter once, and I'm going to pick my point where my pick point is going to be. There you go, and click. So if you click onto this, it's already a block, and your pick point was the one that you designated. So you could easily move this by just pressing that knob and just pressing it over there. So it's in place now. So I can make copies of these, CO, and it's just one entity, and there you go. So I just copy this, copy it to this opening, and then rotate it later on in the orthographic RO. That's my pivoting that I want. Click that, and there you go. So now I can just copy these more to the other side. That, copy this, click onto this opening since they're the same. The windows are now finished except for one. Okay, for this matter, on the last window, I guess I'm going to leave it up to you to solve it. As far as the doors are concerned, swinging doors are simple. First is you need to get some information where what the distance, what the measurements are. So this is a 0.9 clear for this. So the frame is slightly off inwards, so it's not like what we did for the windows. So we're just gonna follow this. So distance ti, this is is going to be 0.15 meters. Thickness is of course 2 inches. So relatively easier than the windows right here. So REC rectangle at 1, 2.1, because that's the opening of the front door that I did is 1 meter by 2.1. I'm going to erase one of the edges, which is the ground. I'm going to do that with trim, TR, and double enter, so that everything is on the edge. All the edges are cutting points. And offset, I'm going to be offsetting this by 0.05 offset. 0.05 or 2 inches. Click the object that you want to offset, go inside. There you go. So there's an opening here. Currently these are 2 sets of polygon lines. Okay, so I want to close these gaps. I can do that with putting in polylines, PL, enter, PL again, enter. There you go. But they're not closed. So this is like they're not one entity. Okay. In order for you to close these or to kind of weld them together, I'm going to invoke in the edit PE or polyline edit. I'm going to choose one of the edges and I want to say join. So I'm going to choose all of these. Make sure that you've chosen all of them. Enter once. And there you go. So it's one entity. The reason being is that it's not going to extrude as a solid object later on if something is open or something is not welded together in a closed manner. Okay, so now I'm going to replicate the door panel, which is a rectangle, over to that from that corner to this corner, and that's it. That's the basic of the door. So I'm going to copy just like what we did before. ext, this is going to be 0.15, 0.15. Okay, there you go. That's the frame. Now for the door panel, copy. It's going to be 2 inches in thickness, or 0.05. Extrude this, ext, by 0.05. There you go. So you need to place this like that endpoint to this endpoint. Okay, I can erase that extra. Control S to save. Now 3D rotate. 3D rotate, just type in 3D rotate full word if you want to, but you can, this menu will pop up and just click it. Choose the 2 objects, enter once. Now you have the gizmo. So the red one just now is the one to pick. Okay, so it has to be in the correct orientation, which is this. It has a top frame here, and there you go. Now one thing I didn't do for the windows is to put them in their correct layers. So I haven't done the 3D layer for the windows. Let's make one also for the doors. LA, enter. So new, which is this, 3D dash door. Then new one again. Okay, 3D dash win. So we can designate a color. Let's say the windows are going to be green for the meantime, and the door, I want them colored yellow. I always choose from these 9 first, never actually these. Once you're set, just get out of that. Now if you can click the necessary windows, click them first, and then go to your layer, pull down, oops, and place them as windows. Click as windows, and if you escape a couple of times, they become green like the layer. And same thing here for the door. Select it and then go for the layer and choose 3D door, and it should become that. So I didn't block this because there's only a few doors here. So I'm going to move this into place, M. I'm going to pick the mid section because it's going to be on the mid of this here. And if we hide it, HI, regen, and then rotate. Now for the rear door, you need to generate another set of this because it's not the same measurement. So this has a 0.8. So please do generate the door for the rear, as well as, well, I didn't do the punch hole yet here. Please do the swinging doors here, the double swinging doors. It's just a matter of having frame go one frame here, that's long one, and 2 door panels. So it's sort of like the windows we did. And that's it for the meantime. That's the construction of the door and window sets in 3D. See you on the next lesson. The next lesson shall be creating the rooftop just to have this enclosed. Okay, see you then.